I'm Charles, and I'm on a mission to find what's inside everything. To help me get my answers, I have an industrial CT scanner. It takes a whole bunch of X-ray images from all around a subject, and then builds a 3D model revealing every internal detail. What separates an original 2010 GoPro from a modern counterpart? Let's scan them and find out. Since their debut in 2005, GoPro has almost become synonymous with action camera. Their 2010 HD Hero was hailed as a revolution in extreme sports videography and TV production. And in fairness, they did lead the way in compact waterproof cameras that could survive, say, a fall off of a skydiver into a pig pen. Since 2010, they've released many new models. And this is the Hero 10, released in 2021. It can shoot 5K video and take way higher resolution stills, should the need arise. It also has Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, GPS, a remote control, intrinsic waterproofing, built-in mounting, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So how did they fit all of this into basically the same package? Let's take a look inside and see what's changed. Let's tell a tale of two cameras. Hero HD 2010, Hero 10 Black 2021. What difference has 11 years made? A lot of things, and you already know what those things are. But let's start with the similarities. First things first, both of these guys have removable externally charged batteries, and both of them use this nice, simple interface to connect to those batteries. Here we have 4 pins, and on the original model, we have 3 pins. And these are blade styles so that the battery can have the spring contacts and actually lock in, and it's held in by some other mechanism. Both of these have SD card slots, and it took me a moment to remember where the heck the SD card slot is on the Hero 10, but eventually found it. We have a micro SD card slot that is in beside the battery slot, tucked in on the main circuit board. And actually, it seems we only really have one main circuit board in here. Meanwhile, in the original HD Hero, we actually have 3 circuit boards making up this whole sandwich of a device. And that's kind of the first hint at how things have changed in 11 years. Things have gotten smaller. That means you can do more with less. Or in this case, you can do the same amount with way less, or way more with way less. And that even comes down to things like the SD card slot, which we are looking at right here. This is a full-sized SD card slot. It's considerably bigger while accepting much lower capacity cards than a modern SD card slot, which again, a little hidden. I'll just remove the battery door here. There we go. So the storage media is way more dense in the modern one than in the old one. So what about the things that are being ingested onto that drive? Well, let's take a look at the image sensor itself. Looking at the two optics assemblies side by side, the first thing that jumps out is that the old school one on the HD Hero looks rather crude. It's screwed into place in the chassis of the camera. It doesn't appear to have any actual mechanical link directly to the sensor. There's nothing here. It's all screwed together. It's threaded into the chassis, and it looks like most of this spacing is just kind of there. This lens is held in place directly by this clamp. It'll work, but there's not really much in the way of modern manufacturing brilliance going on here. It's functional, sure, but it pales in comparison to the modern one. So this, you can see, first of all, has just way more elements in it. Here, we've got maybe, I don't know, 1, 2, hard line here, 3, 4, and 5. Meanwhile here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the main glass on the front. So you have a couple more optical elements, and also you have a frame that's directly attaching the sensor onto this optics stack up. I can't quite figure out how it links up here. If we sweep through the layers on this view, we can actually see that the optics stack is secured to the front of the chassis from the front. So there's some screws in there, these 2 screws, that are securing this whole assembly at the front onto the body of the camera. And those screws on the front are actually then going in back and supporting the image sensor, which is dangling off the back of the optics stack. Whereas on the HD Hero, the lens assembly screws into the body of the camera and just kind of trusts that it's going to wind up in the correct position relative to the image sensor back here. Now, I'm sure they were pretty good at assembling them like that. I've never really heard of one of these things being horribly out of focus from the factory, but it definitely doesn't scream precision and reliability, because if this frame bends or tweaks, you're going to lose focus, and you're also going to wind up with a bunch of weird effects on how your image gets projected onto your sensor. And when there's dewarping happening on board this device anyways, you don't really want any more warp than you can possibly avoid in the mechanical system. Now, another advantage to the design of the modern one is that actually you can replace this lens. Not like the internal lens, although maybe you can do that too, but if something cracks this exterior glass, this just comes off. You can replace it. Probably not cheap, but hey, beats buying a new camera. This, you're screwed. Now that said, this did come with an external enclosure that would protect the lens, and that had a replaceable cover. But if you're just running it nude like this, no guarantees. With almost every video I make on this channel, I'm becoming more and more of a connoisseur of buttons in consumer electronics. And GoPro, quite famously, only has 2 buttons on their cameras. So the question is, are they any good? Personally, if I was only gonna have 2 buttons on my camera and they were gonna be the only way to control it, I'd try to make sure they were really nice ones. So let's see what they've done here. Starting with the HD Hero. Mounted to the middle circuit board, we find a framed right angle tactile switch that is actually a through-hole component, and it looks chonky as heck. This is your button. It has a big steel cage protecting it, giving it some stability, some rigidity. That thing looks pretty seriously well built. Now, what does the actual button look like geometrically? Sitting right on top of it, that directly impinges on the button. What did 11 years of progress get us? Well, let's see. It's another tactile switch. Nothing wrong with that. This one, however, is surface mounted and vertical rather than right angle. So it's sitting normal to the board instead of parallel to the board. And that's because at some point they ditched the 3-board sandwich and instead have boards, well, just where they need them. And they're not exactly packed either. This board is running double duty as a lot of things, but this particular button, well, yeah, it's just there providing a signal. Here, the structure is a bit flatter. We have our actual tactile switch with its integrated actuator right there. And then we have a flexible silicone, probably, dome that goes on top of that and is actually cast into the same chassis as the outside. And that means they can maintain waterproofness around that button. So that's how they built the shutter buttons. I suspect that the menu and power button is going to be almost the exact same thing. Curiously, different style of tactile switch, but still ultimately the same idea. And on the HD Hero, it's right here. Oh, okay, so curiously, they've also used a surface mount tactile button on here, and it's just a normal vertical actuator button. So they only used the right angle one here just because that's how the board's lined up. So this is mounted flush with the front-facing board. This is mounted right angle to the middle, also front-facing board. Overall, 11 years of button development. Let's give it the click test here. And the power buttons. There's no click on the power button. Very lame feeling button. The new ones are just nicer. There's no 2 ways about it. But they didn't really change much, and why not? These worked just fine, probably still do, if this thing hadn't died of unrelated causes. Now, the real thing that separates these two is 11 years of technology advancements. And most of that is in the computers that are on board. And really, the first thing that stands out at me looking at these scans is just how much more electronics they've had to stuff into the HD Hero than into the Hero 10. I know this might not sound like the most compelling argument just glancing at it, but if we remove the back cowling from the Hero 10, you'll see that this thing's basically hollow. Really, the Hero 10 is all battery by volume, whereas just had this shallow cutout at the back for the original HD. All these advancements come down to miniaturization. What they could pull off in 3 circuit boards in the Hero HD, they can pull off in 1 on the Hero 10. That means you have more room left over for storage media and batteries. And more batteries means things last longer. You can do more work with it. And that's always a good thing, especially when you also miniaturized the storage media. So you went from a full-size SD card to a thumbnail-sized micro SD card. And you can store 1,000 times as much volume on the micro SD card as you can the full SD card. Now, this isn't to say that the Hero 10 isn't complicated on the inside. It absolutely is. In fact, it might even be more complicated on the inside than the Hero HD was. But they're able to do all of that complexity in just a single piece of board. And they're able to keep everything a bit more compact. And that's going to make it cheaper, more manufacturable for the same performance. In fact, that's so much the case that this doesn't get the same performance as this. It's leaps and bounds better in the same package. That's what miniaturization and technology improvement actually gets you, which is pretty cool. So overall, what's changed? Well, everything's changed. This thing is better in almost every way than this. I didn't even mention the part where it has 2 screens on it instead of just a single crappy monochrome display. It's got a better lens, better camera, better sensor, probably better stabilization, probably actually has active feedback on the stabilization, better processing, better storage, better batteries, better mounting, better waterproofing. And even the buttons, well, this one still feels better, it's probably more reliable, and it's probably more waterproof. So overall, they've made a huge improvement to this over the years, and it's kind of incredible to see the contrast between these two. I hope you guys learned something from this, and if you have any particular questions, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what we should scan next. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave us a like. And if you want to see inside of something, leave a comment with your suggestion. If you want to support the channel, share this video with a friend, or check out hacksmith.store. And if you want to see inside of everything, get subscribed.